At 62, Evander Holyfield finally revealed 5 boxers. He was scared to fight. The world knew him as the real deal. They witnessed his iron will. They saw him climb into the ring with Mike Tyson, not once, but twice, watched Tyson tear into his flesh. And still, he kept swinging. Evander Holyfield, 44 victories, 4 championship belts, dominated cruiserweight, conquered heavyweight, a fighter among fighters. Everyone believed nothing could shake him. At 62, Evander Holyfield sat in his Atlanta residence, scripture resting in his hands, championship belts mounted around him, battle scars etched into his skin, and honesty flowing from his lips. Without fear? Holyfield smiled sadly. I lived with fear. Constant fear. Every major bout. Every killer in front of me. Fear never left my side. But 5 names cut deeper. 5 fighters didn't just frighten Evander Holyfield. They consumed his thoughts, invaded his sleep, made him wonder if he truly belonged at their level. I studied scripture before stepping into battle, Holyfield revealed. People assumed it was devotion. It was. But it was also terror. I was begging God to shield me from the damage those warriors could inflict. At 62, the real deal unlocked the door. 5 fighters who shook his core. 5 battles he dreaded accepting. 5 secrets he buried for 30 years. This is what he never told you. Number 5. George Foreman, Houston, Texas, 1990. Evander Holyfield wore the heavyweight crown. The sport bowed before him. Then George Foreman spoke his name into existence. When Foreman began demanding our fight, I couldn't help but smile, Holyfield recalled. The man was 42 years old. Hadn't fought professionally in a decade. Returned overweight and sluggish. Simple work, the experts promised. The experts understood nothing. Holyfield studied Foreman's return to boxing, witnessed him flatten younger opponents with solitary blows, watched him absorb punishment that would have shattered lesser men. George resembled someone's grandfather, not an active fighter. But that right hand? That weapon remained untouched. Perhaps more devastating. Time couldn't diminish his raw force. The contracts were signed. April 1991 was circled on calendars. My preparation for that bout was military grade, Holyfield confessed, because I understood the stakes. George Foreman possessed the ability to erase your legacy with a single connection. One lapse in judgment. One instant of distraction. And your next memory is white hospital lights. Holyfield remembered what Foreman did to Joe Frazier. 6 times to the canvas in 4 minutes. He remembered what Foreman did to Michael Moorer 3 years after their scheduled fight. Behind on every card. 1 perfect shot. New champion. My fear wasn't about the loss itself. My fear was about what a Foreman loss represented. He didn't simply defeat opponents. He destroyed them. Frazier became a shadow. Norton became a cautionary tale. I refused to join that collection. The bell rang. 12 brutal rounds. Holyfield earned the decision. But comfort never came. George connected in the 3rd round with a right hand from my blind spot. My foundation vanished. For a fraction of time, I existed elsewhere. Outside the ring. Beyond this world. Somewhere without light. Holyfield endured. Claimed victory. But the memory remained forever. At 62, that punch still visits me. What if his aim was perfect? What if my recovery failed? George Foreman nearly erased Evander Holyfield that evening, and the world would have nodded. Of course, Big George was 42 years old, and Evander Holyfield was terrified. Devastating power never retires, Holyfield acknowledged. Technique deteriorates, quickness vanishes, But the capacity to alter someone's existence with one punch, that remains eternal. George Foreman carried that curse until his final bell. Number 4. Larry Holmes, Las Vegas, June 19, 1992. Evander Holyfield versus Larry Holmes. Written on paper, another routine victory. Holmes was 42 years old. Yesterday's champion from yesterday's generation. A decade removed from his peak. The entire world informed me Holmes was finished, Holyfield said. Completely washed. An aging man chasing one final payday. But when I analyzed his footage, Holyfield's voice trailed. I witnessed a predator, an experienced predator, but a predator nonetheless. Larry Holmes possessed the most refined jab heavyweight boxing ever produced. 48 professional victories, 2 decades of systematic violence. He had dismantled every approach, answered every riddle, outlasted every nightmare. Larry understood secrets I hadn't discovered, Holyfield confessed. He had shared the ring with Ali, Norton, Shavers, Cooney, legends I only witnessed through broadcast screens. He weaponized that wisdom. The terror wasn't physical. It was intellectual. George terrified me with raw power. Larry terrified me with pure intelligence. He anticipated your strategy before you executed it. He made in-fight adjustments that required other fighters' entire training camps to comprehend. Holyfield became obsessive preparing for Holmes, dissected every recorded round, every subtle shift, every tactical sequence. I couldn't locate vulnerability. 42 years old, and the man still commanded boxing's finest jab, still possessed boxing's sharpest mind, still carried that expression suggesting he knew your future. The opening bell sounded. 12 rounds of tactical warfare. Larry penetrated my defense with jabs I never tracked, made me whiff on combinations I never missed previously. At 42, he was outsmarting me, a fighter in absolute prime condition. That's genuine terror. Holyfield prevailed, clear decision. But admiration transformed into fear across those 12 rounds. I discovered truth fighting Larry. Age doesn't eliminate fighters. Accumulated damage eliminates fighters. And Larry Holmes absorbed remarkably little punishment. He possessed the intelligence to avoid harm throughout his entire career. That made him lethal indefinitely. At 62, Holyfield's memory stays sharp. Larry Holmes could have defeated me under different circumstances. If my preparation wasn't absolute perfection, that seasoned veteran would have humiliated me. I held the championship, and I was frightened of a 42-year-old. That reveals everything about Larry Holmes. Number 3, Lennox Lewis. 2 confrontations, 1 controversial draw, 1 definitive loss. The giant who officially closed Evander Holyfield's championship era. Lennox Lewis invaded my sleep, Holyfield admitted at 62, not because of his ring performance, because of his potential. March 13, 1999. First meeting, Madison Square Garden. I prepared for Lennox as if he represented humanity's most dangerous specimen, because he was exactly that. 6'5", 240 pounds of sculpted muscle, Olympic gold around his neck, jab like industrial machinery, right hand like artillery. The fight delivered brutality, competitive brutality. Both warriors found success. The judges declared stalemate. I understood my fortune that evening, Holyfield confessed. Lennox controlled that fight. Every observer recognized it. But the scorecards granted me a draw. An undeserved gift. A second opportunity I never earned. November 13, 1999. Second meeting. Las Vegas. The rematch eliminated all debate. Lennox was superior. More imposing, more powerful, more cerebral. He solved me in our first encounter. And he dismantled me in our second. Unanimous verdict. Lewis. Undeniable dominance. Lennox accomplished something unprecedented. He made me feel inadequate. I had worn the heavyweight crown. I had conquered Tyson. I had conquered Bowe. I had conquered Foreman. And Lennox Lewis made me question my presence in his ring. The physical disparity was overwhelming. Every forward step, that jab created distance. Every offensive attempt, he suffocated it. I was battling someone from mythology, and mythological beings don't fall to ordinary men, not frequently. At 62, Holyfield voiced what remained unspoken publicly. I was frightened of Lennox Lewis, both encounters. The first meeting, I feared I couldn't bridge the distance. The second meeting, I feared my suspicions were accurate. Lennox was our generation's supreme heavyweight. And I recognized it before consensus formed. Number 2, Riddick Bowe. 3 battles, 3 absolute wars, the trilogy that nearly destroyed Evander Holyfield. Riddick Bowe was my personal hell, Holyfield said at 62. Not figuratively speaking, genuine recurring nightmares. I experienced visions of fighting him for years, even after our trilogy concluded. November 13, 1992. First battle. Las Vegas. Holyfield entered as reigning champion. Departed as former champion. Riddick embodied everything that haunted me. Physical superiority, strength advantage, youth advantage, and cruel. That man desired to inflict suffering, not simply victory. Suffering. 12 rounds of organized violence. Holyfield absorbed defeat, unanimous verdict. But physical trauma was merely surface level. Riddick shattered something fundamental in my self-belief that evening. I had never experienced that level of helplessness, that degree of outclassed competition. Every 3 minutes, he invaded my space, imposing his will, delivering punishment, savoring it. November 6, 1993. Second battle. Las Vegas. I captured the rematch, finished him in round 8. But the public doesn't comprehend what that fight extracted. I abandoned pieces of my essence in that squared circle, pieces that never returned. The third battle. November 4th, 1995. Holyfield's darkest professional night. Before our third meeting, sleep abandoned me for 7 days. Not from external pressure, from internal fear. I knew Riddick's capabilities intimately. I had absorbed them twice, and I had to absorb them again. Holyfield was dominating, controlling rounds. Then round 6 arrived. Bowe's left hook connected. Holyfield collapsed. When that blow landed, I witnessed my entire existence, not rapidly flashing, just stopping. I maintained consciousness without awareness, breathing without living. Riddick Bowe transported me somewhere unexplored. Holyfield rose. Impossibly. Continued fighting. Impossibly. Won the fight. Impossibly. I claimed victory that night, but I sacrificed something irreplaceable. My sense of indestructibility. My conviction that determination could overcome physical limitations. Riddick Bowe revealed the boundaries of human endurance. My endurance. At 62, Holyfield still carries Bowe's shadow. 3 confrontations with Riddick Bowe subtracted 5 years from my career. Possibly more. Every blow I absorbed in those wars, they remain with me. In my speech patterns. In my cognitive function. In my trembling hands. Riddick Bowe lives inside me permanently. And that frightens me more than any punch ever did. Number 1, Mike Tyson. The obvious choice, but the fear was completely misunderstood. I wasn't frightened of Mike Tyson the athlete, Holyfield said at 62. I was frightened of Mike Tyson the monster. The matchup the world demanded. Evander Holyfield versus Mike Tyson. Finally reality. When that fight received confirmation, people questioned my sanity. Tyson remained boxing's nightmare, still the most feared presence in the sport. And I was an oversized cruiserweight with documented heart problems. Holyfield's expression softened. They never knew my terror matched theirs. Not concerning Tyson's punching power. Not concerning his velocity. Not concerning his offensive sequences. I was frightened of what Mike symbolized: pure chaos, complete destruction, total unpredictability. You could strategize for every fighter on Earth. You could not strategize for Mike Tyson, because Mike didn't compete like a professional boxer. He competed like something summoned from darkness. November 9th, 1996. First encounter. Las Vegas. Before that fight, I prayed for 2 solid hours, not requesting victory, requesting survival. I asked God to protect me from whatever darkness Mike was channeling into that ring. Holyfield won. Technical knockout round 11. Global shock followed. His reaction was different. I knew victory was possible, but defeating him and surviving him were separate concepts. Even in triumph, I felt his force, his aura, his malevolence. Mike Tyson defied normalcy. And confronting abnormality is a fighter's deepest fear. June 28, 1997. The rematch, the infamous bite. When Mike bit through my ear, surprise never came. Sounds irrational, but I knew something unhinged was inevitable. That was Mike's nature. When fair competition failed him, he discovered alternatives. Any alternative necessary. Holyfield's ear was mutilated. Blood flowing everywhere. Officials stopped the fight. People ask about anger. I felt none. I felt relief. Because Mike Tyson revealed to everyone what I already understood. He was capable of absolutely anything. And fighting someone capable of anything? That's authentic fear. At 62, Holyfield comprehends Tyson better than any observer. Mike lived with fear, too. That's why he chose that path. He recognized he couldn't defeat me through boxing. So his psychological foundation crumbled. And when Mike Tyson's mind fractured, anything became possible. That was my greatest fear. 2 fights, 2 victories. But Holyfield never celebrated properly. I defeated Mike Tyson twice, but safety never arrived. Not during our battles, not after our battles. Because Mike Tyson didn't remain contained in the ring. He pursued you. Into your sleeping mind. Into your waking thoughts. Into your spiritual core. Holyfield closed his scripture. I prayed before confronting Mike Tyson. I pray after confronting Mike Tyson, 25 years later. I still request God's protection from what I witnessed in that man's eyes. The darkness remains, and I'm still frightened of it. 44 victories, 4 championship belts, heavyweight champion of the world, the real deal, the warrior, the man with boxing's biggest heart. But at 62, Evander Holyfield doesn't calculate victories. He catalogs fears. Foreman could have ended everything with 1 perfect punch. Holmes could have outthought me on any given evening. Lewis was too physically imposing to defeat conventionally. Bowe shattered pieces of me that never healed. And Tyson haunts my existence still. 5 fighters. 5 terrors. 5 warriors who made the real deal question his purpose. People believe courage means absence of fear. That's completely wrong. Courage means you're paralyzed with fear, and you fight regardless. Every significant fight of my career, I was terrified. But I appeared, I prayed, and I fought. Evander Holyfield opened his scripture again. The identical scripture he studied before every fight. Fear is God's warning system. It signals approaching danger. but faith transcends fear. That's how I endured, not through fearlessness, through faithfulness. At 62, the real deal delivered one final message. I was frightened of 5 men, and I fought every single one. Some fell to me, some defeated me, but I never retreated, never avoided, never disappeared, because fear only becomes sin when it paralyzes you. Holyfield closed his eyes. The faces remained vivid. Foreman, Holmes, Lewis, Bowe, Tyson, 5 men who terrified him, 5 men he confronted regardless. That's the real deal, Holyfield whispered, not existing without fear, being afraid and appearing anyway.